Have you ever watched someone brilliant just vanish? They stop showing up to social events. They go quiet on group chats. They pull back from conversations they used to lead. And everyone around them starts whispering the same thing, that they must be struggling, that something must be wrong, that maybe they need help. But what if that disappearance is not a breakdown? What if it is actually the beginning of something the people watching them cannot yet see? What I want to propose today is something that most psychology content will never tell you, because it does not fit the narrative that withdrawal is always a warning sign. Sometimes the smartest thing a brain can do is go quiet. Not because it is giving up, but because it is in the middle of rebuilding something it does not have language for yet. Let me ask you something directly. Have you ever been in a room full of people you used to connect with and felt absolutely nothing? Not sadness, not anger, just this strange, flat absence of resonance, like you're watching a film in a language you once spoke fluently but now sounds foreign. And the terrifying part is that you cannot explain why. You still care about these people. You are not depressed. You can function. But something has quietly shifted, and you cannot go back to pretending it has not. If that describes you, this video is not about what is wrong with you. It is about what is happening to you, and why the people around you are misreading it entirely. Here is the pattern that researchers and psychologists keep documenting, but rarely connect in the way I am about to. Studies on neuroplasticity and identity formation have consistently shown that periods of social withdrawal in high-functioning individuals often precede significant cognitive and personal transformation. The brain's default mode network, the system that activates when you are not focused on external tasks, becomes dramatically more active during these retreat phases. Carl Jung called this individuation. Modern neuroscience calls it self-referential processing. What both are pointing at is the same thing. The brain pulling inward is not a malfunction. It is a very specific kind of work. But here is where I want to introduce something that goes beyond what the textbooks explain. The reason smart people specifically go quiet is not random. It is tied to something I call the identity ceiling. Think of your identity like a structure you have been building since childhood. Every experience, every relationship, every success and failure adds a layer. For most people, this structure keeps growing comfortably. New floors, same foundation. But for people with a particular kind of cognitive depth, a moment arrives where the structure stops being able to support what they are becoming. The ceiling is not a limitation of intelligence. It is a mismatch between the self you have been and the self that is trying to emerge. And the brain, in its extraordinary intelligence, recognizes this before the conscious mind does. So what does it do? It creates distance. It reduces the stimulation that would reinforce the old identity. It makes social performance feel hollow, because the brain already knows that performing the old self is a form of lying. The withdrawal is not depression. It is protection. The brain is protecting an identity it has not yet finished building. I call this phase the chrysalis phase, and understanding it changes everything about how you interpret your own silence. In the chrysalis phase, the behaviors look identical to the early signs of depression from the outside. Reduced social engagement, decreased interest in previously enjoyed activities, a kind of quiet heaviness. But the internal experience is fundamentally different. Where depression creates cognitive narrowing, a shrinking of possibility and meaning, the chrysalis phase creates cognitive expansion that is almost overwhelming. You are not thinking less. You are thinking in ways that no longer fit the conversations around you. You are processing frameworks, values, and beliefs at a level that the people in your current environment are not equipped to receive. And so you go quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you have not yet found the language for what you are becoming. The tragedy is that most people in this phase are told they need to come back, reach out more, engage more, be more present. And because they trust the people saying this, they try. And every time they try to squeeze back into the identity they have outgrown, they confirm what the brain already suspected, that it does not fit anymore. And the exhaustion of that performance pushes them further inward. Here is what I want you to do with this. There are 3 steps to what I call an identity audit, and this is the practical work that helps you move through the chrysalis phase instead of getting stuck inside it. Step 1 is to map the dissonance. Get a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write down the version of yourself that the people closest to you currently see and expect. Your role in conversations. the opinions they think you hold, the ambitions they assume you have. On the right side, write down what you actually think about now, the questions that keep you up at night, the directions that pull at you even when you dismiss them as unrealistic. The gap between those two columns is not a problem. It is data. It is the exact width of your identity ceiling, and seeing it clearly is the first act of building beyond it. Step 2 is to find the signal under the withdrawal. Not all withdrawal is equal. Inside your quietness, there will be specific things that still light you up, even slightly. Not the things you feel you should care about, but the things that sneak past your fatigue and generate actual curiosity or energy. These are not hobbies. They are directional signals from the self that is being assembled. Write them down without judgment. The pattern in them will tell you more about who you are becoming than any personality test ever could. Step 3 is to protect the rebuild. This is the step people skip, and it is the most important one. The chrysalis phase requires a specific kind of solitude that is not isolation. Isolation is aimless. Solitude with intention is architectural. You need to create deliberate space where the old identity is not being constantly reinforced by performance and expectation. This might mean having an honest conversation with someone close to you. Not explaining everything because you cannot yet, but simply naming that you are in a period of deep internal transition and asking for patience rather than pressure. The people who deserve to be in your next chapter will meet that with curiosity. The people who respond only with concern or pushback are showing you the limits of the relationship, and that information is also data. Now I want to bring this full circle, because the way I opened this matters. When someone brilliant goes quiet, the people around them almost universally interpret it as loss. They think the person is retreating from life. What is actually happening, in the cases where this pattern holds, is that the person is retreating from an outdated version of themselves. They are not moving away from the world. They are moving toward a version of themselves that will engage with the world in a fundamentally different and deeper way. The problem is that the transformation is invisible from the outside. Nobody sees the chrysalis doing its work. They just notice the absence of the butterfly they expected to keep seeing. And if the person in transition is pressured back into the caterpillar role before the process is complete, the transformation either gets delayed or it gets abandoned entirely. And that is the real tragedy, not the withdrawal, but the interruption. If you are watching this and you recognize yourself in this pattern, I want you to hear this clearly. Your disappearance is not a failure, it is architecture. The quietness is not emptiness. It is space being made for something that has not arrived yet, but is already on its way. Your job is not to explain it to everyone around you. Your job is to trust the process enough to let it finish. Do the audit, find the signal, protect the rebuild, and when the new identity is ready, and it will be ready, you will not have to announce your return. People will simply notice that someone they already knew has become someone they have never quite seen before. That is not a disappearance, that is a becoming. And it was happening the whole time.